PHL 17 presents In Focus, a look at the issues affecting the Philadelphia region. Now your host, Steve Highsmith.
How do we increase the chances that a child, a teenager, a young adult will make smart decisions? Good parenting, moral teaching, leadership by example, the community caring and acting, better schools perhaps. Good morning, I'm Steve Highsmith and welcome to In Focus. The National Institute of Mental Health says key to understanding decisions, impulse control and behavior is understanding how and when the brain matures. The brain doesn't look like that of an adult until the early 20s. Experts say the rates of death by injury between ages 15 to 19 are about 6 times higher than the rate between ages 10 and 14. Crime rates are highest among young males. In Philadelphia, a nonprofit called CADEkids has been making inroads in promoting peace, better attitudes, improved school work, and better decisions about risky behavior.
So, good morning, everyone.
Tony Smith enthusiastically begins another class with 8th graders at Franklin Elementary School along Rising Sun Avenue.
Raise your hands if you think you want to get a good report card.
Smith is a prevention specialist with the Philadelphia nonprofit CADEkids.
One of the things that we try to do is to really connect with the kids, the students, the teachers. We try to become part of the school community. The uncontrolled anger sequence.
Tony Smith leads the class in a 45-minute, once-a-week dialogue.
How many of you have feelings? Feelings, raise your hands. Nothing more than feelings. You guys don't know that song, right? There you go.
With humor and honesty, students explore why they make the decisions they do about arguing, fighting, drugs, and bullying.
Now, why is it that we feel so hurt when it's done to us, but we don't seem to feel that same level of hurt when it's projected on someone else?
Through CADEkids' evidence and research-based curriculum, young people better understand impulsiveness, high-risk behavior, and positive choices.
Decisions that you make when you're younger will affect the way how you act when you're grown up.
They learn there are consequences.
You go out and do something you regret, and when you try to get into a college, they might look at your record and say no.
CADEkids currently touches about 8,000 students at 24 schools in Philadelphia.
These kids are very resilient. They come from very difficult backgrounds. A lot of them come to school knowing that they're going back home to some place that they really don't want to go to. But when they're here, they perform with a level of excellence that I just haven't seen in a long time.
Seeing that excellence is Jason Lytle, an 8th grade social studies teacher at Franklin Elementary.
I see a large impact on our students in their impulsivity. Students are starting to stop and think about some of the things they do.
Principal Rosalind Sample Green adds grades and behavior have improved.
We've had a drop in suspensions as well as serious incidences. And I would have to say that some of that data is attributed to CADE. If there's a conflict between two students, they're more apt to talk about it.
Every day, Tony Smith of CADEkids promotes positive decision making in a world he believes often lacks that guidance.
If we don't step in as CADEkids and teach the prevention lessons that we teach, a lot of kids are going to miss out on a lot of opportunities.
What does the CADEkids experience tell us? Should it be replicated in all schools? With me now are Douglas Haldifer, Executive Director of CADEkids, Tony Smith, a CADEkids Prevention Specialist, and Dr. Sue Kornbluth, a Temple University psychology professor and a nationally recognized parent expert on childhood trauma. Thank you all for being here. And Tony, thanks for letting us come into your classroom as well. So these kids really seem like they want this kind of knowledge, this kind of conversation, Tony.
Kids are really interested in connecting with us and our message. They sense that we care about them and we're authentic in our approach.
And this approach is something, Doug, that has been validated. It's based on research?
Absolutely. One of the researches that we draw on is from Hawkins and Catalano at the University of Washington, social development strategies, which say that early prevention programs that are age appropriate done over a long period of time make a difference in long-term behaviors. But more immediately, we have evaluations that our teachers and principals do each year. 170 last year, 70% noticed changes in behavior, 40% in bullying, 29% in aggressive acts toward others, and about 15% noted improvements in behavior and attendance.
And grades get better.
Grades get better with time.
And these teachers also validated in the sense that they want you back.
Absolutely.
More than 98% or so say that.
And about 98, 99% definitely want us back, and about 95% of the kids get passed on to the next grade successfully. So
what is it,
well.
Sue, that works here? Because we've learned so much in the last generation about impulse control and how the brain develops. Is there a way that you can jumpstart that or make kids aware of why they behave the way they behave?
I think so. The one thing that kids want more than anything is a connection with somebody that really cares about them and they feel a sense of belonging to. Once they feel that, they feel a sense of positive self-esteem, and they feel that if they do have an impulse, they can use some self-control, and they have someone that they can go and talk to about it.
And what the prevention specialists do is they also help give those tools, right? You talk about the triggers that are in there and about how you have choices about how you can respond.
Correct. There are a lot of choices that kids can make, and we simply try to come in and implement the most positive choices for our kids. They're looking for an outlet to do something differently than what they've seen in their community and their homes a lot of times. So we're there to give them those tools.
Well, let's take a look at another excerpt we took from our visit to the classroom of you and the students talking about goals and about drugs. Take a look.
Okay, so how many of you have goals? All right. Can somebody tell me what their goal is?
Electronic and engineering.
A master's and bachelor's degree, and then open my own boutique.
I want to go to MIT and get a PhD and then start my own business.
Great. What are some obstacles that can get in the way of you reaching your goals?
Family death.
A family death, okay.
College funds.
College funds. Your emotions. How many of you think that anger can stop you from reaching your goals? That anger itself can stop you from reaching your goals? Let me ask you this then. Why is it so hard for young people to make good decisions at this level?
Things and like violence is going on in the world.
Okay, a lot of the violence then.
Like alcohol in the house.
Alcohol in the house, okay. What do you say is probably the biggest drug that people in your age group are starting to experiment with? Go ahead. Weed, all right, also known as?
Marijuana.
How many of you have friends who think that using drugs is entertaining? It's a form of entertainment. When they see people who are high on drugs, they think it's entertaining, okay? A lot of you. How would you deal with that person? What would you say to them?
Your body is a temple, and you shouldn't be putting all these things.
Drugs, even if you hear that they can't kill you, they can kill you.
Is it really worth it to put my life on the risk and take this from this person?
So what kind of dynamic are we seeing there where the students are talking very honestly about their peer environment and what they're encountering on the street, and then also have ways of responding?
Well, let's remember that teenagers are filled with peer pressure. So when they see other kids doing things that are not so good for them, they sometimes want to join in and do that too, because they don't feel so good about who they are and they want some kind of acceptance. However, that acceptance may not always be beneficial for them. So they need to learn to develop a voice to say, no, that's not the best choice for me. And that comes from building the tools within yourself to do that. From programs like this.
Do you see that kind of growth over the course of a year in their ability to get their head around these kinds of issues?
Yes, we definitely talk about choices and consequences, and we present to them the two outcomes. And more than likely, they're going to side with the positive choices. They don't want the bad outcomes.
Is this life skill training, Doug, something that's part of the core of what CADEkids is all about?
Absolutely. And our goal is to be there for the entire year and multiple years at the same school. So to build on what Tony and Dr. Kornbluth were saying, that we need to support them over time in these emerging skills that we're supporting.
So you ideally will start in a school in kindergarten.
Absolutely.
And you're right now staying through 8th grade.
Yes.
We see a lot of the problems happening obviously in middle school years, but also in high school years. Can we, or should we, make the leap to high school and continue this program if we could?
Yes, I think there's probably a market for that and a need for that, but there is so much demand right now for the services on the younger end, especially as the school district resources are stretched more thinly each year, that it's probably a goal for down the line, but I think immediately we have plenty to do in elementary and middle school.
Tony, what do, and you've been in various schools, what do principals and teachers tell you as they see these dwindling resources and at the same time the needs of the kids?
Well, a lot of principals are asking if we can come in 5 times per week instead of the one-day model that we have right now. So with the limited resources, they are definitely in need of more help and more resources in our schools.
The kids seem to trust you. Do you get that feeling?
Yes, I do. The one thing that I love about the way we do things in our schools is that we work in 8 to 12 week cycles. So we have a lot of face time with our kids, 2 to 3 months. So when they see us coming each week, it empowers them to know that we really do care and that we're here for the long haul.
As you are with them more and more, you undoubtedly either hear direct comments they make about their either home environment or their neighborhood environment or other challenges they have or just how they feel about themselves. How do you process all of that? I mean, how do you know when to respond appropriately to that?
Well, we take it one child at a time. We try not to do blanket statements. We listen very carefully and we simply pull out the details of what's bothering them. Maybe their father passed away, maybe their mom's incarcerated. So we try to let them know that we're not here as a parent, but we're here to just simply listen, because a lot of our kids, they just need to vent.
So you're an expert on childhood trauma, and there is trauma that is in the neighborhoods in many of these cases.
Yes, constantly.
It's affecting them.
It's affecting them more than a teacher or an outsider would know, because many kids that are living in these environments bottle everything up inside. And a lot of times it comes out in impulsive or aggressive behaviors. But we have to look deeper into where that behavior is coming from and work on giving them, like I said before, a voice and allowing them to vent what they are feeling.
Well, ahead, CADEkids in the classroom again, and self-esteem and drugs on In Focus on PHL 17. Stay tuned. Back on In Focus, I'm Steve Highsmith. CADEkids was started when the police, a leading broadcast executive, Alan Serksner, the city government, the school district, and the 4 major sports franchises in Philadelphia came together to try to tackle the drug problem of the 1980s. CADEkids has evolved into a much more impacting, decision-making, and impulse control organization today. With me are Doug Alderfer, Executive Director of CADEkids, Tony Smith, a CADEkids Prevention Specialist, and Dr. Sue Kornbluth, a nationally recognized parenting expert on childhood trauma and a Temple University psychology professor. Tony, when you first see these kids in the first session that you have, how would you describe their level of self-esteem or what they even know about self-esteem?
A lot of our kids don't know what self-esteem is. And one of the things that we try to do initially is to help them to understand who they are and their possibilities. The only way that they can really achieve goals in school is to get a good sense of self-esteem. So we tell them about self-respect, self-worth, and that hopefully sets the stage for the rest of our lessons.
Well, let's take a look at a little example of you having a discussion about self-esteem.
We haven't really talked a lot about self-esteem. How many of you know what self-esteem is?
Sometimes I do think of myself as great and magnificent, and other times I just see myself as stupid and unappealing.
Anybody ever been on a roller coaster before? Yeah. Right? So a roller coaster goes up, and then it goes down, then it does a few loops, right? Drives us crazy a little bit. But then somehow it comes back and it levels off. And that's how your self-esteem is going to be over time. Right now, it's like a roller coaster. You're going up, you're going down. But at some point in your lives, you're going to level off. Okay? Never give up on what you believe in.
Keep studying and trying hard.
Okay. Study.
Think twice before you do something.
Okay.
Don't let nobody get in the way.
Great. I just want to applaud you guys, first of all, for getting to this level and being a good role model for other students that are coming up behind you. And a lot of young people, they don't get a good rap, right? But I think the world should see that you guys are really doing a great job, and I'm sure your parents and your teachers, and of course your principal, are very proud of you.
There are so many things in that. Sue, let's begin with one of the earliest statements, and the young man who said at times he feels magnificent and other times he feels stupid. And should he not be applauded for having the courage to say what basically we all have felt at some point in our lives?
I want to applaud him because that was the most honest statement I've heard in a long time. And as adults, as kids, as teenagers, we all feel good at times in our lives and not so good. That's part of normal development. But to hear that kid say it makes me aware that he is in touch with his own self and what he is feeling, which is a great sign of building high self-esteem overall. You have to be able to look at yourself to get to where you want to go and accept it.
And Tony, when you're talking with them and you hear these things, you want them to recognize what milestone, what mile marker they've reached, but at the same time, help them get to the next steps along the way of how to deal with those feelings, correct?
Correct. So when we discuss self-esteem, we always talk about goals. What are the bigger goals? And we try to break those bigger goals up into smaller goals so that they're not getting discouraged along the way and their self-esteem is taking a hit to the point where they don't want to try anymore. So our goal is to really help them to just meet the smaller goals.
Doug, someone might be saying, well, that sounds great, and the kids look sharp. You're cherry picking the kids. You're picking the kids that are going to have the best response. True or false?
Not entirely, because we don't select all the kids that we work with. We look to the principal, we look to the administration to make that decision for us. Yes, especially with someone like Tony who's got the wisdom and the experience, they will look to bring his input into it as well, but it's ultimately their decision. So Tony gets to work with the students that they select.
And Tony, you and I talked that day, we were in the classroom afterwards, and you said that in your experience over the years, you find that you often get the kids that the school feels are the most challenged or have the most need.
Correct. A lot of our kids are challenged. They have experienced various detentions and suspensions in school, and a lot of them are challenging to their teachers. So yeah, I applaud the schools for wanting to help those kids to stay a part of the school community, but it is challenging sometimes, and those kids need to understand that they can be just like the rest of the student body.
Principal Green was telling me that she has seen, she's been a principal for a long time, that the violence level has dropped dramatically in school ever since CADEkids has been making inroads with people. Yes, we work extensively teaching kids how to resolve conflicts in a peaceful way. Unfortunately, in our society, our kids are taught to fight one another, and that's how they resolve their differences. But with us coming into the schools, we definitely give them the tools to resolve problems. What about that, Sue? I mean, are we teaching our kids that fighting is the solution?
I don't know overall if that's what we're doing, but we are seeing a lot of that out in the world, out in the media, in movies, on television. So kids, you know, will emulate what they see sometimes. I think this program is on the right track in teaching kids how to solve things in a peaceful manner. I think that's the way we have to go forward within the future. But let me just say this. What kids need most in life to build self-esteem and make the right choices is acknowledgement and a feeling of importance. And that is what CADE is giving these kids.
Doug, when you hear that kind of support, do you wish the message could get out even in greater degrees than it has been? What could make this get some greater catalyst to be permeated throughout city and suburban school systems? Because if we're honest about our school systems in our region, suburban school districts have serious drug problems, they can have violence problems. This is not a city unique problem. Yet CADEkids has been focusing primarily in the city of Philadelphia.
Right.
Would you like to see this replicated?
Absolutely. And of course, one hindrance is always funding. But because I think there is buy-in at the district level for these kinds of programs. One of the curriculum that we use is called Life Skills, Botvin's Life Skills, and the district is trying to implement that in more schools. And using their efforts and our efforts combined, we're hoping to reach a wider range of kids. So without a doubt, I'd like to see these programs expanded.
And it's as cost effective as it can be. These are not school district employees. Tony is not a school district employee. He's an employee of CADEkids, the nonprofit, correct?
And we For the last 3 years, we've asked nothing of the district, no financial support from the district to have these services in their buildings.
When you look at the future of CADEkids, do you have a plan for what you'd like to do in the next 3 or 4 years?
I think slow incremental growth would be the best. If we could expand maybe by 5 schools in the next 2 years, we're currently in 23 schools. If we could get to 32, 35 by the next year or two, I think that would be a very attainable goal. But yes, overall, it would be nice to have a broader reach within the district.
One of the things I was struck with, Tony, is how positive the young people are about their own futures. They actually seem to have some sense that they can achieve. Is that something you encounter very early on, or that you just simply bring out, which is not simple, but you bring out in them, or do they actually develop that?
I would say by and large it's something that's in there that needs to be brought out of the kids. A lot of them have possibilities. They do have their own personal goals. It's just a matter of how do I go about achieving those goals? What steps do I need to take? So that's what we try to pull out of our kids.
And how does someone believe in me to reach those goals? You need somebody behind you in anything that you're doing to support you to accomplish a goal that you want to achieve. So having caring adults like this behind a child that doesn't feel very good about themselves propels them to take bolder steps.
All right, we'll have more on this, more on the difference that is CADEkids in Philadelphia in a moment as In Focus continues on PHL 17. CADEkids is all about changing attitudes for the better and teaching young people how to make good decisions when confronted with life's challenges, which can include conflict, drug temptations, and just fitting in. In Focus continues now on PHL 17 with Doug Aldifer and Tony Smith of CADEkids and psychologist Dr. Sue Kornbluth. So Tony, do you feel at the end of the day when you leave the classroom that you're making a difference?
I really do. I really feel like the time spent in front of the kids answering questions, making suggestions and offering the tools that we can to the kids is going to have a lasting impact on them.
And Doug, what I noticed in the classroom is it's not just Tony talking and when the kids dialoguing with him. It is also, there's homework, there's paperwork. There are steps that they take and analysis. They study this. There's a curriculum.
Absolutely. And our curricula are evidence-based. So that means they've been tested across populations, and they've been tested long-term, so longitudinally, to make sure that the effects remain. And the 3 primary ones we use are Too Good for Drugs, Life Skills, and PATHS, Promoting Alternative Thinking Strategies.
And so the lessons do stick, they do stay?
Absolutely, and especially if we can maintain that contact year after year and do what we call booster doses of the curriculum, that makes a huge difference for kids.
So it also seems that in these classroom settings, the students who ordinarily might not talk a lot with each other, maybe they talk with 1 or 2 others in the classroom, but they're hearing all these students pretty much express similar feelings, and it's almost like they're creating a new peer group that is a positive pressure.
And it's a feeling and a thought of, I'm not alone here. I'm feeling the same way all these other kids around me are, and I'm not so different. And you know, when we feel different, we feel that we can't move forward. But when we feel more alike other people, we feel that we can do more.
And Tony, I think it's probably true that it's not just the students who speak up, because not all the students are going to be talkers. But the ones who were there and not talking, you're still reaching them. They're hearing it, they're listening.
Yes, they are listening. And believe it or not, a lot of those kids who are quiet in the classroom will come to you after class is over with tons of questions. Yeah.
And do you ever hear these things in the classroom that make you think you have to get extra help for them in any way?
From time to time, there are some things that are mentioned, and we try to give them space to discuss it with us privately in case it's a legal matter or a situation where there's an abusive situation going on. So, yes, definitely, we try to give them some space.
But you're trained to look for those code words too and to pick up on these statements that come out.
Yes.
And Doug, when you talk about the impact of CADEkids since the 1980s when it began, is it something that the school district says to you, yes, we see it and we wish we could use more of you?
Yes, especially as you look school by school. You know, the administration changes, the superintendents come and go, but yes, at certain schools we've had teachers who've been loyally supporting our program for many years and do request that we keep providing the services that we do.
And I think it's important to let you say something you said during a commercial break, which is that you really do believe this is something that should be spread around all schools in all parts of the Philadelphia region.
Yes, I think that in schools there are kids that need their self-esteem built up everywhere. And the best gift that you can give a kid is a sense of high self-worth. And programs like this can be beneficial not only in Philadelphia but throughout the suburbs as well.
Well, Dr. Sue, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Steve.
being here. Tony, great job with the kids. Please keep it up, sir.
Thank you.
Tony Smith, Prevention Specialist. Doug Alderfer, thank you very much, and everyone at CADEkids for their support since the 1980s. Thank you.
Thank you.
For more information on CADEkids, the quiet story, go to cadekids.org. That's cadekids.org. And that's In Focus for this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Steve Highsmith. Enjoy your weekend and have a great week ahead.